Welcome to G4G on YouTube. Today we're taking a look at Marvel Strike Force, and we're going to be discussing some of the characters that beginners should go ahead and start farming to get a robust and rather well-rounded Marvel Strike Force experience over here. So April's login bonuses, by the way, are Spider-Man, so the game is giving you shards towards Spider-Man, so you can kind of sit back and let nature take its course when it comes to Spider-Man and wait for the login bonuses to give him to you. Mostly because Spider-Man's taken a little bit of a hit since the beta times. However, he is definitely very, very popular on Arena and Blitz teams. He does have a pretty decent stun, but it also makes him a target for your own stuns, generally because you know when he's going to whip it out. And that's actually something that I want to discuss in a future video. So a couple of videos that I've got planned is I want to talk about like the supports and the tanks, and then I also want to talk about the extreme predictability that you see with characters when it comes to Arena and Blitz mode, so basically the PvP modes, and kind of talk about, you know, is this good or bad when it comes to the predictability. So it looks like for Blitz we are getting Black Widow shards, and that's actually good because it gives people a way to get Black Widow who is no longer farmable, and she actually used to be back in the beta. So people who have been playing for some time now have had definitely a leg up on certain characters, and of those I would say the leg up would be people who had done the Iron Man event and people who were able to farm characters that are not quite farmable anymore. I do need to go ahead and get this tier 5 one unlocked relatively soon, but the difference in blue cubes is only 2. So it's kind of important, but not super important. You will discover that as you're leveling things up. Blue cubes are probably one of your first limiting factors over here. I'm just going to go ahead and go through a couple of daily items real quick over here, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the meat of the video. However, do take note of Shield Medic over here, as this is definitely one of the people that we are going to be talking about. And you'll see over here that right now my top roster is Black Widow at 40, and then mostly everybody's hanging at 35, 37 for Handsork. I think I will go ahead and do this for Gamora right now. Rather than train one of my top guys for today's daily, I think I'm going to train a slightly lower one. And in this case, I'm going to bump up Crossbones for this one. We'll bump him to 35, because he is one of the people that we're going to talk about. So he'll get his moment of the sun here. Alright. So let us go ahead and jump into the video. So there are different places where you can farm characters, or farm the thing that allows you to convert it into a character. General rule of thumb, don't really convert your orbs into characters. Now I break that rule if I know I'm super close to somebody. Let me kind of give you an example of what I mean by that. So say there was Gamora, okay? Gamora's 450 cores for 5 shards. Now, if she was at 65, 70, 75 or something like that, you know, I would definitely do it. I'd cash out and, you know, save the farming time, be like, oh man, just 1 or 2 days of these purchases, and it'll have me a buffed up Gamora. That's when I kind of break the general rule that everybody will tell you is a very hard and fast rule in this, is don't convert your cores into characters. But for me, like I said, I do make exceptions if something is close. For example, the Hand Sentry. One of these purchases is going to get me to 9. and then another one would get me to 14. That would only leave me with 1 to farm. That's actually not too bad. So 2 purchases over here at 360 a pop when I'm at nearly 7,000. It's not too bad. And, you know, so if we want to do a character conversion rate, let's take a look over here. So 450 for 5. We'll take Iron Fist and Gamora. 450 cores for 5. That is the equivalent of slightly over $5. So there's your conversion rate over there. So you've got 5 for 380. You can figure it out there. 750 for 10. Alright, so in Arena, you want to go to the store, and here is who is currently available. Drax Quake, DD, Shield Security, Hand Archer, and Aim Researcher. Again, this is kind of another one where I go for people that are within range. So here, 400 out of 4,800 Shield Security is super close. Not bad. Now, of these, you know, some people consider these like shield and hand and aim guys nameless scrubs, and I think they're severely underestimating what happens in this game. These nameless scrubs are very, very important, especially specific ones. Now, there are also theme teams, so you will have characters that say something like chance to have an assist of any of the hand people on your team. So in other words, let's just say Elektra. This isn't the case, but let's use her as a hypothetical example. Elektra might have an ability that says chance to have a hand member of your team assist on an attack. So if you build a hand team around there, especially ones that have good skill 1 attacks, Elektra attacks and then pulls a hand member with them. That's simply extra damage, or maybe things like a debuff on a character. So don't underestimate these, quote, nameless scrubs. So here we have Drax, Quake, and DD. DD is probably out of range of people to farm unless they got the pre-registration bonus. If they did, he's not awful. I just want to point out real quick that he does have one ability that seems to hit very, very, very hard. So here's my Daredevil at 20. I believe it's Throw Baton at higher levels. So attack the primary target for 110%. This is attack the primary target for 170, 40% chance to train. It's whatever is out of his 2 or 3 that is available right in the beginning of the match. I think it's the level 2, skill 2. Does like 3k to my team at around my level, and then the rest of attacks, they're kind of okay, but that opening one from Daredevil, and we'll cover this in the predictability video, it is pretty solid. So you might find him to be a good DPS, but in all honesty, there's other ones that you could go to. So I would say Drax and Quake are the ones that you want to focus on from your arena tickets over here, or arena points, however you want to put it, arena USB sticks. Quake is good if you like Quake, and she has some very good abilities, and you want to focus on her because you can get her from so many different areas. So if you're like, man, every time I go up against a Quake, she does this AoE, this slow, I love it. You have a lot of ways of getting her. But if you are specifically isolating yourself to only things that you can get from this mode, then you want it to be Drax. Drax has been buffed as a tank a little bit, and as an aside, when people say, oh man, you people who are getting the APKs when it was doing a soft launch and it wasn't global and blah blah blah, you have such an amazing head start. Yes, that's true, but we almost have to relearn the game. Because right at the global launch, and again, I say global, I do apologize to the people who are looking for this in countries where it's not out yet. By the way, we in the States are going through the same thing with DC Unchained. They said grand launch, but it's not actually available in the States yet. So we're having to pull it in from outside sources. Here, with Marvel Strike Force, they're saying the global launch, blah, 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 quote unquote. But it's still not available fully across the globe, so it kind of evens out. But Drax is the one that you want to go with over here. He's actually become somewhat of a reasonable tank. And there's two reasons for this. Now, my Drax is okay. He's been around for me for a little bit, but he doesn't have the super most use for me. But he is good in a few things like the Cosmic Campaign. He's not the best hero tank out there, but he does work on Guardian teams, and he will eventually work on the Cosmic Campaign. Why he's decent is a lot of his abilities have drain on it. And that's pretty good because he gets to keep himself somewhat healthy. So if you get him up to gear 4, at the beginning of the fight, he starts with a taunt. Now, I don't know if that means his AI is dumb that he starts with the taunt and then spends his first round hitting the taunt again, which would kind of be stupid. You would think that he would do something else the first round and then come back around and use fast reflexes on the second round. Basically having a semi-eternal tank over here. He's decent because he has a taunt and a counter, which does go with other tanks like Crossbones, but he also has a chance to gain a defense up, and he also drains. So it makes attacking him a little risky. Plus, you know, if the AI is smart, he's good as a tank to start with a taunt. I don't know that I would consider him my primary hero tank, but he's probably decent as a off tank, or maybe somebody that can be paired up with Crossbones if you can, like PvP. Quake is a DPSer from the store. She is pretty handy as she has some very interesting debuff abilities there. She's got a slow, apply slow to her primary target and up to 10 adjacent targets, which is huge. She has Shockwave, which clears positive effects. By the way, clearing positive effects counts for removing taunt. So if you're trying to get it a squishy and somebody's in your way, clearing positive effects is the way to go. Earthquakes apply offensive or offense down, and Secret Warrior gain extra focus. Shield allies gain 5% damage. So she's good on shield teams, and well, that makes sense. Agents of Shield. For events, you have the Electra one, which I've completed. You have the Rocket one, and you have Crossbones. Now, you generally want to go for these as best as you possibly can, as they don't really cost you anything. But you want to do them after you've done your dailies, because while they don't cost you anything, they typically don't count for anything other than the things that you're going for. But this is definitely a good way to work your Crossbones up. He's a good off-tank for your villain campaign. So definitely try to go through this as much as possible. You have Rocket over here, or some people say Ugly Raccoon. And this is where I am right now, is the 31. It's basically a plot of, well, I don't want to spoil it for you guys if you haven't been doing it, but it's a plot that circles around some issues Groot is having. I think Rocket is actually a decent DPSer in that he has one ability that absolutely smokes teams. Now, the good thing about it, if you're facing it, is it's one of his later abilities. It's maximum damage, I'm pretty sure. This one comes up late in the fight, but if you've not killed Rocket by that point of the fight, maximum damage will absolutely blow you the fuck up. He's slower than you would expect, considering in Marvel Avengers Alliance he was, you know, pretty standard, but he can put out a bucket of damage if you let him alone long enough to do that large AoE. It's one of the few AoE abilities in the game that really just does an absolute ton of damage. So we've looked at Arena. Let's go over and look at what we've got going on for Blitz. So for Blitz, we're looking at Spider-Man, Gamora, Crossbones, Luke, and as people say, the generic scrubs. So Luke is a pretty solid tank, and he has death proof. Those of you who play DC Legends are pretty used to the, are we really getting spammers now? God damn it. It's the first time I've actually seen this in chat with people like it's stupid for people to say scam. Like, we all know it's scam. All intelligent people know it's fucking scam. Like, god damn it. It's just a shame that people would even respond to that. And it's a shame that's happening in the game. So Spider-Man, Gamora, Crossbones, Luke. Pretty much you want to focus on Gamora and Crossbones. Mostly because Spider-Man's just kind of, you know, he's a DPSer, they're dime a bunch. Luke is a decent hero tank, but I'm going to come around to that in just a moment. Gamora, to me, and I think a lot of people, has taken over as the prime punch-out person from Elektra. So back in the beta, the way Elektra's abilities worked is she was great anti-tank, and she was great just a one-hit kill for a lot of things, which is odd for melee, but Elektra really could pump out the one-hit kills out there. Now it's Gamora. Gamora requires a little bit more of a setup, but when you set her up, she's a lot of fun. Like, think of it as a chess match or a good game of 8-ball or 9-ball. Gamora just lets you chain a whole bunch of deaths together if you set it up right. You pop somebody with skill 3, which resets if she kills, and then you pop somebody with 2, which resets if she kills, and then you do the 1. The 3 also gives an offense up. So, if somebody's in range of death, you hit them with Gamora's 3, and then, you know, you make the choice of whether you want to hit somebody with a 1 or a 2. Gamora also tends to go very early in combat. Her speed is very good. So that's why I think you should work on Gamora. Plus she's a Guardian for Guardian team-ups, and she will count for the Cosmic campaign. Crossbones is going to be one of your villain tanks, often considered to be a good off-tank for villains. He's also a good off-tank when you don't have to worry about heroes and villains. He has a very interesting ability where he gives himself death proof, but then he blows up. So it's a little bit of an Allahu Akbar moment over here, but we'll point that out. So detonate, gain death proof, and then explode for 200% damage to self and all enemies. So it doesn't hit any friendlies, but he's got a good passive for Hydra-related teams. So when people are like, oh, you know, these nameless scrubs, blah, 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 don't think of them as nameless. If you're doing a villain campaign and you stack your team with a bunch of Hydras, they're getting 5 armor, and you're getting a tank who has death proof, does a huge AoE, he gains taunt and a counter, and, you know, he has a standard level 1, which can apply offense down. So Crossbones, not gonna be your primary tank, but he is definitely going to be an off-tank or potentially main tank when doing the villain campaign. When I see him in PvP, I tend to go for him first, because I do know that as soon as he gets his turn, he does go for Wrath. So rather than try and kill a squishy before he gets his turn, I just dump everything on Crossbones anyway. I've only had him Allahu Akbar me once, maybe twice tops, because he's just generally an early kill for me. Monstrosities are a very long farm. He's a built-in, he's a natural 100. And the other Hydra guys I'm not as familiar with, but they're ready to be unlocked. There's a Kree Royal Guard and a Mercenary Riot Guard over here. Now, raids changes because raids rotate, and if you're not in the best of like alliances, this may get a little tough over here, but your raid orbs are how you get your characters over here. So Thor is definitely one of them, and then you can see you've got, that's an aim infector, I believe. There's a hand guy, there's Thor, there's a mercenary. That's the healer Ravager. That's Ronin. And then it cycles back. It's good for Thor. Really is one of the best things to do over there. And now you have the campaign. Well, the campaign is pretty much the most wide open part of this, because that's the meat of where you're going to get a lot of your characters. And we'll highlight a few that we can go ahead and talk about. So Ravager Stitcher is a decent healer within the villain campaign, but not the best. It comes from his Stitcher kit. This is one of the guys that Yondu summons when Yondu does his skill 2. So pretty much what you're seeing here is a lot of the people that are kind of considered meta. Black Widow you should go for whenever you can. Really good for increasing your team's speed. She has a bunch of multi-chain melee abilities. They can do a stun, and then they can also splash into a bleed. Her stun is very, very good, because it's good for people that you know are about ready to do an obnoxious ability. For example, Spider-Man's own stun. It's good to hit him with it right before he does it, and then you don't have to worry about it. If you can, get your way to Saboteur, because one of the first things you're going to do is camouflage tech because of the speed on the team. And if you're going to gain an offensive up when you're stealth, you know, all the better. So Widow's Bite is her stun one that splashes into a bleed. This one is pretty handy. I will definitely spend some squares on that. As you can see at level 3, 170% damage and a stun and a chance to chain bleeds up to 3 targets. You know, plus it's actually a decent looking Black Widow. Kind of cartoony in a little way. And this is also like the best looking Jessica Jones that we've ever seen. She's just usually not attractive in anything. Captain America, what you want to do for him is get him whenever he's in the store on special. He's really, really good. Now, here is where you can farm him. You can get him in Heroes, Nexus, and Mystic. Heroes will probably be the one that beginners will go for, but he's really deep in. So it's tough for a beginner to get Captain America unless they get him when he's in the store. That's what I happened to do. During the beta, there was a Captain America offer. He's just really good. First of all, he has this block chance, which, believe me, that 25 and then going up to 30, I think is a real underestimation. I find he blocks a lot. You do sometimes get a decent amount of damage through the block, but most of the times he just simply negates an attack straight out. He's probably, I think, the best tank in the game. At least for heroes. Not villains, but any time where you're not isolated to heroes and villains, he's the best that you can get. His shield throw clears positive effects, so good for taking out enemy taunters. Inspire gains taunt and defense up on self, defense up on 2 allies, and ability energy to anybody who's an Avenger. So really good if you've got slow Avengers like maybe the Hulk, and I think even Iron Man will benefit from that a little bit if you do get him. Black Widow, I think it's pretty cool for Black Widow because she gets her stealth and speed up more frequently, and that's actually pretty cool because now you're essentially giving your team a speed boost over the enemy team, which is nice. Shield Medic is a hero healer who is very, very good and definitely somebody a beginner should absolutely work on. She's got some pretty cool abilities over here. Her pistol is not to be underestimated as it can apply slows and offense down on people. The offense down is fairly frequent. Emergency treatment heals 3 allies, and then it can eventually heal all allies. And if she does it when somebody is dead, you've got a chance at a revive. The only bad thing is it's a super long cooldown. As you can see here, it's 5 rounds. That's kind of rough. It's not that frequent that this comes up twice in a match, especially in PvP. Fighting Fit is pretty decent. 10% chance to apply 1 turn of regeneration to an ally with the lowest health. Heal them for 10% of their max health. This one comes up relatively frequently, but Shield Medic is definitely one of the beginning healers you want. The villain counterpart is Hand Sorceress. She drains on a basic attack. She heals everybody and applies defense up to the 3 lowest characters. And Way of the Shadow is that she has a chance to go stealth, which means that she has a chance as a healer to live longer. Generally, in PvP related areas, you see the Shield Medic way more than the Hand Sorcerers. Sometimes you see a double. It's not bad. Yondu is definitely an absolute must to farm. You can find him relatively early on. As you can see, he's in Heroes 1-9, making him pretty accessible to beginners. Boarding Party is where he shines. He applies offense up, and he also summons 1 to 2 Ravagers. The Ravagers can either be the one with the AoE grenade, or the Healy one, the Stitcher. I can't remember if he does any of the others. They're not sticking out to me as much as the other two. Yonka Arrow is a decent AoE. It hits everybody who isn't stealth, and it's undodgeable. Centauri Hunter seems to proc quite a bit. On his turn, 50% chance to copy a positive effect off of one enemy and apply the positive effect to self. Ravager allies gain damage. The problem with his Ravager allies going live is that they don't live very long, mostly because a solid AoE will take them out. However, if the Stitcher lives long enough to hit the AoE heal, it's one of the best things for you. Their damage is not ever quite as good as actually having one of their own Ravagers, like the Boomer. But, they may take a hit off your main characters, and the Healy one could give you a good late game heal if your Shield Medic is on recharge. Kingpin is another one that you want to get when you see him as an offer, as he's really deep into the game in Villain's Nexus and Mystic. Solid Summoner. His summons is Crime Lord, and it's available right at the beginning. He summons 2 Taunters. Who cares about the bodyguard damage? The boss really should give health at this point in time. A good thing that you can try to do is do Crime Lord on one turn and then follow it up with boss's orders the next, so that they benefit from the defense up, so that they might live longer. It's a hard combo to pull off. Used to really like Punisher. He's fallen off for me. Used to really like Elektra. She's fallen off for me. Crossbones is somebody you want to farm for, and if you are a little bit more than a beginner, I'm going to point out some of the other ones that you want to farm that unfortunately I don't have. Night Nurse is considered one of the best healers in the game, despite the fact that I don't really see her in PvP much. She's fairly deep in, but not super deep. She's in Villains 3.9. As a beginner, that is actually pretty farmable, and that is my current Villains farm target. So, as a matter of fact, I think I'm even going to do... The way that I like to do my dailies when it comes to the campaign is I do 3 and 3 of heroes and villains, and then I go the extra in whatever I feel is close or my farm target. There's Hawkeye. I've seen some people say he's worth the farm. I don't really know about that. I've not heard as much. Nobu, a lot of people definitely talk about. Iron Man is an event that isn't up right now, but it's recommended that you get your shield characters up very, very high so that you can do the Iron Man event. The Black Panther was a limited event during the beta that I didn't really get to do much at all. As you can see, he's 0 for me. Ultimus is raised. Nick Fury, I'm not too sure where he pops up. That might be purchasable orbs. Of course, when it comes to... We don't really know that much about Wolverine yet, although there have been people who have been lucky enough to do it. If you are looking to get Wolverine, make sure that you are a high enough level to have this amount of dailies and everything. and do them every single day. So I will only need one more day after this one to do it. And right now I need to open one more orb, 2 arena battles, 3 heroes, 2 blitzes, and my purchases, which I'm going to do now. When it comes to your dailies, don't forget, you want to do your arena match the first part of doing your run of dailies, because it takes a little while to cool, and then come and do the second one on the back end. Hopefully this will count as one of my orb openings over here, because I had played this a little earlier in the day and I staggered. Okay, good. I had staggered my free orbs a little bit. Try and keep your free orbs together. It just makes getting the 2 for the daily super easy. Don't worry about Ultimus raid keys for your dailies, and don't worry about this checking back later. It's the blitzes, the missions, the arenas, blah blah blah. So that's pretty much it for what I would recommend beginners to go ahead and farm. Most of them will generally be in range for you guys. It's relatively easy to get a good chunk of these. Some of the ones that are harder, you know, the harder campaigns are Nexus, and then Cosmic and Mystic are probably going to be really hard. Nexus is within range of a higher beginner, maybe low to mid-medium player. Cosmic is definitely for a higher player, because as you can see here with their strengths and everything, after we go through the cutscene, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Here are the Cosmic characters that you would need. So Ravager Stitchers, Rockets, Bruisers, Nebula, Drax, Guardians of the Galaxy, and everything like that. And it's very easy to get. This is high power on this one. As you can see, these characters are rated at 5,000 apiece. That's not even close to my power levels in, you know, the 35 to 40 range. So let's go back and take a look over here. Yeah, you know, my highest characters are not going to compete with 5,000s. I mean, if it was like one of them, maybe we could all gang up on it, but not a whole map full over there. So that one might be a tough one for beginners. But hey, man, definitely work on the Blitz. Get yourself some Black Widow shards over here, and try going for the other ones that I mentioned in this video. Of course, we had the Captain America shards too, which were able to help people out, especially if you got high up there in the ranks. I mean, 100 to 180 Captain America shards goes a long way of replacing the offer that you guys missed not having done the closed beta. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think. If I missed ones over here that, like, oh my god, you didn't talk about so-and-so and they're awesome, certainly let me know. And if you disagree with anybody that I recommended you farm, let me know that also, and we will definitely chat about it. So some future videos coming up within MSF. We're going to talk about like the tanks and the healers specifically. We're also going to talk about the predictability of characters in PvP scenarios, and that's some of the videos planned for MSF. Other videos, I'm going to be diving into the World of Warcraft BIFA, or Battle for Azeroth alpha that I've been part of for a little bit. Do some videos on that. And 2 of the planned ones I want to do there is like what it's like to do the first 15-20 minutes of the alpha, and also talk about the mounts that are going to be available in BIFA. And I want to do that one with my girlfriend because she's really into mounts. I want to do a double video with her, have her guest on one of them. So that's what we got for the future on the channel. Hope you liked the video, guys. And if anything comes up with whatever we're going to rename Saviors of the Multiverse, I'll definitely continue covering that. But we're in a little bit of a lull at the moment. See you, everybody.